Never voted in my life, but it's like, I think he's waking up America, and America's starting to realize, we don't have free and fair elections. The Justice Department ain't blind. It's like they're indoctrinating our children, and so I think he's waking up America big time.
I never voted in my whole life, but I think he's waking us up big time, man. Even though my shirt says I voted for Trump, don't blame me. I mean, I didn't vote. I can't even know how to read my own shirt.
It's like...
In a moment, I will explain to you, and I will share with you a study that helps prove this, why conservatives fall for false information much more than Democrats do. Why conservatives fall for false information much more than liberals do. But first, how about another clip of these geniuses?
What do you think of Fox News?
That's the only news I watch. I've seen the CNN, I've seen some of the others, and they're so biased, it really pisses me off.
Do you think Fox is biased?
To a point.
My God, was he painstaked in his face before admitting that Fox News, shocker of all shockers, is biased, as is CNN, according to this genius man who clearly has no teeth. And look, number of teeth is not a direct indicator of intelligence, but I mean, kinda it is, you know what I mean? This is one of the more informed, more open-minded supporters that we found in this recent shoot with Michael Schor talking to more Trump supporters. I mean, here's another.
In these changing times, where do you get your news now? From what sources?
Mostly online, some of the news channels, and of course Facebook, like us all.
Which online news do you like?
Let's see, what's the one? Fox News, and I can't think of the name of the other one. I just watch it. Channel 208. Yeah.
No, online. I mean, when you're on the computer.
Usually I'm just on Fox News.
How come they all have such idiotic laughs? How come they all dress like such ridiculous people? With the tiny little Uncle Sam hat, that's the move, and 4th of July earrings, not on 4th of July. I mean, in what planet does this pass as an acceptable way to appear without being ironic out in public? Fox News, and mostly Fox News and some online sources, and whatever the other one on 208 was. Well, let's now interview another woman standing next to a super not at all creepy looking dude.
You seem to know a lot about policy and things like that. Where do you get that information if you don't watch the news?
Well, I follow a lot of folks. Telegram is one that I follow. And then, I'm on Truth Social.
You're on Truth Social. Isn't that wonderful? The social network made up by the former criminal president and current criminal regular who called it Truth so that idiots would think it's truth. And it's literally just created to be full of lies. Why is it that conservatives tend to believe falsehoods more than liberals? And totally granted, both sides do that, because a recent study from OSU shared the following, and I quote, "Conservatives are less able to distinguish political truths from falsehoods than liberals, mainly because of a glut of right-leaning misinformation. A new national study conducted over 6 months shows." So there's way more misinformation on the right, which is obvious because they have a bunch of networks that they manipulate a bunch of dumb people and started to convince people on the left of the same thing. That's my own commentary. Back to the study. Researchers found that liberals and conservatives in the U.S. both tended to believe claims that promoted their political views, but that this more often led conservatives to accept falsehoods while rejecting truths. Here's an example. A false statement they gave to these study participants was that, quote, "While serving as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton colluded with Russia, selling 20% of the United States uranium supply to that country in exchange for donations to the Clinton Foundation." An absurd thing that I heard during the pandemic. To that fact, only 2% of Democrats said it was, quote, "definitely true," but 41% of Republicans did. An egregious, very stupid thing to believe. They believed it. So the study goes on, quote, "Both liberals and conservatives tend to make errors that are influenced by what is good for their side," said Kelly Garrett, co-author of the study, and professor of communication at The Ohio State University. Quote, "But the deck is stacked against conservatives because there is so much more misinformation that supports conservative positions. As a result, conservatives are more often led astray." So sure, again, there's a lot of platforms, but is that it? Is that all? Quote, "We saw that viral political falsehoods tended to benefit conservatives, while truths tended to favor liberals." Let me explain what that means. The things that go viral for liberals are truths, actual facts. And the things that go viral for conservatives are political falsehoods, which makes it a lot harder for them to avoid misconceptions because so many of the lies infiltrate there because they just make shit up literally out of nowhere. I continue. Although the information was the primary reason conservatives were susceptible to misinformation, it may not be the only one. Quote continues, results show that even when the information environment was taken into account, conservatives were slightly more likely to hold misconceptions than were liberals. Quote, it is difficult to say why that is, Garrett said. We can't explain the finding with our data alone. Here's Ben Gleib's theory. That's me. They're stupid. And I'm not judging that based on the lack of teeth or the clearly very stupid laughs or the fact that they dress like idiots and the fact that they constantly espouse the most obviously batshit crazy conspiracy theories just because they were tweeted by an angry man in all caps who used to be the leader of the free world and is now just a common criminal, or because everybody on their side that preaches to them and shares the news to them are people who are smarter than they are and that just had to pay a huge amount in a lawsuit because they admitted that they were lying to their audience and knew they were lying. So is that got anything to do with it? I think mostly it's the lack of teeth and the funny hats personally, but maybe that's just me. So just a couple last quotes from the study. Conservatives also showed a stronger truth bias, meaning they were more likely to say that all the claims they were asked about, whether true or not, were true. Quote, that's a problem because some of the claims were outlandish. There should have been no ambiguity about whether they were true or not. Right. So, yes, liberals did believe some things that weren't true, but they were like plausible things. And they weren't things that, denigrated whole parts of our society. Whereas the conservatives believed things that you'd have to be very dumb to believe were true. And they still believed that they were true. Why is this a problem? One last quote from the study that I think sums it up very well. Quote, we showed that the media environment is shaping people's ability to do this very basic fundamental task. Democracy depends on being able to tell the difference between what is true and false, and it falters when people have difficulty agreeing on what's real. Yes, that's exactly the problem. It's exactly the problem when you have many news networks preying on people whose brains just don't work that well, and some whose brains work okay and have been brainwashed to work much less well. And when you have a former president so hell-bent on power and fame and money that he's willing to tear down the entire democracy that graced him with the presidency, and he's already been to the very top and decided, I want more. I'm going to keep every few days saying our elections are broken. And I guess that probably will then be programmed into the minds of people who've never voted in their lives, but our elections are broken. Who would ever say that? I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. Check out my stand-up comedy videos. Please, only if you're smart. At Ben Gleib on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And I'm on Threads for some stupid reason.